So I started coming to the cathedral um, when I started grad school here at Georgetown, and I didn't know many people. And I figured, okay, what's going to feel calm and familiar, or at least a bit more familiar? And we had a chapel like this at my college, and I'd sung in the chapel choir. It was a really lovely, wonderful place. And so I just said, why not? I'll try it. I'd seen it driving by a few times. And so I popped up one Sunday morning and I sat down, and I think it was Jan who was preaching that Sunday. And it was just such a lovely, well thought out, I think really well grounded in theology sermon. And the music is gorgeous. So I sat down and the choir starts behind you. And I always love nowadays seeing new people come because they all turn or kind of wonder where it's coming from. And it's this heavenly sound. And it starts behind you. And it reminded me of college, and it was glorious. And so I started coming on Sundays, and I briefly stopped coming when I moved to Italy for my graduate program. I'd moved to Italy again by myself, was going to an Italian university, speaking Italian all the time. I had a rule that at home I was allowed to speak English, but outside I had to try and speak Italian and get to know people, which worked. But what I didn't realize is that I didn't know how the church worked. So I started watching the cathedral service online and finally took the leap and joined the online international coffee hour. And it is such a lovely community. It's so fun. I feel like I get to talk to people I would never normally get to talk to. And it's a place that I think of as, it's so cheesy to say like a home away from home, but it's one of the home bases for me in DC. And I so love it, and I'm so grateful for it.
The first time I came to the cathedral was Christmas Eve, and it was really packed. Really loved it. The next time I came here was Easter, and I really, really enjoyed it. The atmosphere, the people, the sermons were beautiful. Very sacred, I just loved the way everything flowed. When you come here, there's an atmosphere of just this sacredness, but it's a very warm sacredness. And when you leave here, you can take that with you and share it with others. I love what they were telling me about the outreach and how you're involved with people outside, and I think that's very, very important. The other thing that I find really important is this is a church that's open to all people, and I love that. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Ken Lowenberg. The thing that drew me to National Cathedral was the College of Church Musicians, which unfortunately no longer exists, but I spent a wonderful year of my life here, graduating in 1967, living on the campus. I was actually living in St. Albans School because I was getting free room and board in exchange for playing for daily morning chapel services for the upper and lower schools. I was able to have organ lessons from Paul Calloway, the cathedral organist at that time, and studied with Dr. Calloway. And there were visiting British organists from cathedrals that would be in residency for a week or so. So it was a wonderful, wonderful year. And in gratitude for it, at the end of the year, I gave a carved stone, which you will find in the outer narthex, I guess you'd call it. On your way into the cathedral, if you look way up, you will see 5 choristers and some organ pipes behind them. The choristers are all holding music. So that's my gift to the cathedral in gratitude for my year there. Following that, I went on to Chevy Chase Presbyterian Church and tried to turn it into a miniature Washington Cathedral and was there for 38 years. But I owe it all to Washington Cathedral.
Hi, I'm Aida Dunn, and I've been at the cathedral since 1968. That's a long time. I am a founding member of the cathedral congregation. We had a ball setting it up, and so happy to see that it is still going after all these years, and more people locally, regionally, and internationally have joined the congregation. It's a wonderful thing to see. I love the cathedral and its ambiance, and the fact that anybody anybody can come here and worship. That makes it so nice. It's a misnomer that some people think that this is just a place of worship for those dignitaries, politicians throughout the United States and some international people. No, it is for everyone, and we welcome everyone. It's such a wonderful place. Thank you so much. Feel free to come visit us when you're in Washington, D.C.
So my name is Chris Bono, and I am a mess because I'm working on the organ. I'm helping take out the organ. I've been here for 2 weeks, and I live in Virginia, and I went to Bridgewater College in Virginia. I'm from Massachusetts, and when I was in college, twice I was able to come here to the cathedral and sing with the choir, and we sang at a lot of different places, but this one obviously was a highlight with the 11 seconds of reverberation, I think it is. And even in college, I knew that I wanted to be an organ builder. And when I was here, you know, the rest of the choir, because I was an accompanist also, was always looking at me like, oh, what does he think of the organ? What does he think of the organ? You know, and of course I couldn't play it or anything. And they all were very encouraging, like, oh yeah, maybe someday you'll get to play it something. And so I've touched most of the pipes in the organ at this point. You know, there's over 10,000. And in the intervening years, I've worked as a pipe organ builder in Virginia for a world-class company. And a couple of years ago, I went out on my own, made the connection with the Foley Baker Company who's doing this job, and they hire mercenaries like me. So every morning for the last 2 weeks, I wake up at 5 and we get here at 6. So we get to enter the cathedral in this great, quiet beauty. It's a fantastic job.
Hi, I'm really glad to be here today. My name's Marty Dickinson. And it's a really interesting story how I first got involved with the Washington National Cathedral. In 1967, which is many, many years ago, decades ago, I was an undergraduate at Georgetown University, just down the hill. And you know how it is when you first get to college, it's so exciting. You sit up all night with your friends talking and drinking beer and all these things and talking and talking and talking. And we were doing that. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning before we knew it. We thought, well, what do we do now? You know, there's 3 or 4 of us guys. What do we do now? So we said, well, why don't we go for a walk? Well, where should we walk to? I said, well, there's a cathedral at the top of the hill. And it's kind of cool. Why don't we just walk up there and see what it looks like? You know? So we did. It was a beautiful September early morning before sunrise. You know how it is, right? And we walked all around the cathedral and we came to this place called the Way of Peace, which is the entrance to the Bethlehem Chapel. So the very first time I came here was at 4 o'clock in the morning through the Way of Peace. And we looked up there and we thought, the Way of Peace, that's really important because it was right in the middle of the Vietnam War. And we were so concerned about peace at that time. We thought there's a way of peace, you know. We didn't really understand the theology of it, but at that time the cathedral was open there 24 hours for prayer. Not now, but it was then in the middle of the night, and we could go in there and I have to tell you, it was very, very peaceful. Well, then fast forward to 2015, when I was looking for a place to really make my home for worship and my practice of the faith, you know, I just thought, well, what about the cathedral, you know? And I came here a couple of times. I heard the sermons. I attended the liturgy, and I thought, this has got to be the right place.
Hello, I am Heather McGann. I am the mid-level giving manager here at the Washington National Cathedral. And this is actually not my first time working at the Washington National Cathedral. I started here many years ago when I was done with my undergraduate days, and I came to DC to be an intern down on K Street, like so many young hopefuls. And of course, I needed a job to do that because I was unpaid. And I answered an advertisement in the Washington Post for a part-time clerk in the gift shop, which used to be in the crypt down below the cathedral. And I worked there for a summer while I financed my internship and my time in DC. And that was my first introduction to the cathedral. And I found it, even, at a much younger age, to be an amazing space where people could come and gather and worship and meet. And now I find myself here once again, later in life. I've had my career, and I'm now working in the development office here, as I said, the mid-level giving manager, and I couldn't be happier. I'm thrilled to be back at this place, this institution that I love and hold so near and dear, as do so many people who come to the cathedral. I still feel whatever's happening in the city at large, in our nation's capital, when you come to the cathedral, you can take your breath, and time just seems to slow down here. I find that people, when they come in, they may have their phone with them to take photos, but they stop checking their messages as much. You don't see people buried in their phone when they come into the cathedral. And I think that technology piece that is so important to us is kind of put to the side when they come in and see the grandeur of the Washington National Cathedral, and they take a moment to maybe pray, to pause and reflect on what they're doing that day or where they are in their lives. So the slow down effect, I feel, is really real here in the Washington National Cathedral.
So I moved here in 2016, and prior to moving here, I lived in Orlando, where I was a member of the Cathedral at St. Luke. And then prior to that, I lived in New York City for a little, and I was a member of St. John the Divine. And I actually remember the first time I drove past here when I was visiting DC, and I didn't know where I was. I didn't know that I was driving past the Washington Cathedral, and it was stunning. And I pulled over because I couldn't believe the structure, and I had said if I ever moved here, I would also want to be a member here. So when I moved in 2016, I joined the church. Yes.
And we actually met shortly after she moved here, and that's how I became part of it. So we became part of each other's lives since then, and so here we are.
Sharing what it means to be a member here in a structure that's so large, but yet you can still find a fit. And I know I used to be a part of the knitting ministry, so there's just little things that make you feel like you're not one in the masses. So I think that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's just welcoming, just how welcoming it is. There's so many options that you have, but you come here, it's like home for everyone. So I think that in itself, makes people very comfortable. And a small connection that we had, our daughter's godfather's wife, a classmate of hers is here in the ministry, part of the ministry. And when she came today, the whole family came today. They saw each other, and they hadn't seen each other since high school. So, and she helped preside over the baptism of our daughter. So that connection, just randomly having that is very special.
It's all meant to be.
I call the cathedral my spiritual home for the past 10 years. I quickly got involved in Martha's Table ministry. Cher Sandusky was my mentor. She has been keeping me connected to the mission. I truly believe that the cathedral offers the opportunity for every member to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ on earth. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful place. Really, really open to every individual, every walk of life. Despite its grandiosity and size, it does feel like a home, warm and welcoming.
Well, I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, 70 years ago, as a 12-year-old choir member, we came here and sang in the cathedral. We were a part of 100 boys choir from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And that's been on my mind all these years. What a joy that was. It was just a remarkable thing. I really enjoyed it. And I was in also within that 100 boys choir, I was in a group of 12 that were called the Singing Lads. And we also sang as part of that whole thing. So to bring that many kids here at that age, that was quite an accomplishment 70 years ago anyway. But I'm just so glad to be back. I had to come up and share that with you.
So I think all of us reach a point in life where we need to unload. We're overwhelmed. We're feeling empty. We're tired. And if you come to Washington National Cathedral, you are welcomed just as you are. And you don't have to do anything. Just let God's word feed you. And you will feel restored, and you will feel better when you leave. And this is how I have experienced Washington National Cathedral. As we saw today with 9 baptisms, some days, while all I can do is put one foot in front of the other, the words given to us at the time of baptism, sealed as Christ's own forever, is all I have to do, is all I have to remember. And I take that with me and I reassure myself, I am sealed as Christ's own forever, whose sacrifice for all of us, granting us forgiveness of sins and eternal life in the company of heaven with the ultimate love, is what I take with me throughout the week until I come back the following Sunday to hit my reset button.